Hi, it's Aimee from California.
Hi, this is Andee. I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Minnesota.
Most people know that polyester pants are made of plastic. But did you know that plastic is also lurking in many less obvious places too?
If you are like us and you are not aware, then this episode is for you. Tune in as we share essential insights and actionable steps to minimize the amount of plastic in your wardrobe and the harm that it could potentially cause. This is Coast to the Heart.
Welcome back to another episode of Coast to the Heart. We are your hosts, Aimee and Andee, and today we're diving into a topic that's close to our hearts, sustainable living. Specifically, we're talking about why ditching plastic in fashion is a good idea.
That's right, Aimee. As we continue to celebrate Plastic-Free July, it's important to shed light on the use of plastics in our clothing. And we are not talking about the Mean Girls definition of plastic fashion.
Oh my gosh, wait, Andee, I kind of remember Mean Girls. I mean, I love Tina Fey, but I also have a boy, so we haven't been watching those kind of movies for a long time. But I need a refresher. What are the plastic fashion rules?
Of course, because I'm not like a regular mom. I'm a cool mom. Okay, yeah, here's just for anyone who's like a Mean Girls fan like me. Number one, don't wear a tank top 2 days in a row. You can only wear your hair in a ponytail once a week. 3, you can only wear jeans or track pants on a Friday. And you can't buy a skirt without asking your friends first if it looks good on you. But Aimee, what is the number one rule of plastic fashion? Never forget, on Wednesdays, we wear pink. I can watch that movie a million times. I might actually watch it again tonight. Okay, that's not what we're talking about today. Today we are talking about the actual plastic that's embedded in our clothes, actually from the labels on the back of your neck to the threads and even your zippers.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry to say I've already violated the plastic rules because it's a Thursday and I'm wearing jeans. But that's okay. Yes, exactly, Andee. Plastics are everywhere in our clothing, which I kind of knew, but when we were doing research for this episode, I was actually kind of mind blown about how much plastic is in our clothing. When we launder our clothes, they can also shed tiny microfibers and microplastics. These particles then can enter our water systems and eventually make their way into the seas and our food chain, ultimately reaching humans and entering our bloodstream. And that's all just by having it in our clothes, washing them, and then all of that can happen.
Well, and the crazy fact behind that is, did you know that a whopping 69% of our clothes are actually made from super flammable and toxic plastic? So it's literally, this is the time, if you're into fast fashion or sustainable fashion or just any type of fashion, it's time that we kick plastic out of the clothing that we wear. With the rise of plastic, like I said, in fast fashion, that like, you know, you shop for at your, I'm not going to name any, I'm not going to brand shame any stores out there because I work in commercial real estate. But that fast fashion, the plastic pollution is skyrocketing. And like Aimee said, it's messing up our health, the environment, all the way though, not just when we wear it, it starts at production when you wear it and the disposal when you are done with those clothing items.
Many of us are trying to cut down on plastic by saying no to plastic straws, water bottles, shopping bags, and choosing reusable options instead. That's a fantastic way to
reduce, reuse, recycle.
Woo! That's a fantastic way to reduce our plastic exposure while we push for bigger changes to curtail the production of dangerous plastic and its nasty chemical additives. But let's not forget about the hidden or invisible plastics in our lives, like the ones sneaking into our clothing.
Yeah, there's a lot of plastic in our clothes, and we really are gonna like help you learn where that is gonna be. So you think of things that are shiny, like, okay, so 80s baby, 90s raised me. So I was in college in the early 2000s. So I wore a lot of shiny faux leather pants, which are actually, thank you, Spanx, coming back in fashion today. But shiny faux leather, like that's something that you can tell there's a level of plastic in that, but sometimes you actually can't see it, like the stretchy part in your leggings or your cotton shorts that you're wearing, right? Sometimes it is actually even too small to see. So that's when we're talking about these tiny pieces of plastic, these microplastics that will just naturally come off of synthetic materials. We can't see them, but they have been found in the ocean. We know that, and they're even found in our bodies.
Yeah, amazing, crazy. Even though we know plastic is harmful, we still use a lot of it in fashion, as we've said. A report says that from 1980 to 2014, we made nearly 900% more polyester. Crazy.
900.
Polyester, 900%. Were you even born yet in 1980, Andy?
Oh, rude. Yes, no.
I was already nine. Polyester and nylon, two types of plastic, make up 69% of all the materials in clothes worldwide. And the prediction is that number will increase to 75% by 2030.
Okay, we're gonna post that. Well, you should post that in the show notes so we can go back to that
Mhm.
and really dive into that because I love stats. But the question that keeps coming back is why do we keep using plastic? Right? It's just
Mhm.
like anything. You've grown up with it. It's part of your life. We don't really think about the harmful effects. But why do we keep using it? Okay, well, one, it's inexpensive, right? It's
Mhm.
and it doesn't wear as let's say where it doesn't show its wear when it's affected by things like weather. So like cotton is a cooling type of fabric to wear, so is linen. So we don't really think about again where plastic might fit into that. And so without them we wouldn't have, like I said, this fast fashion, this mass produced luxury clothing. Let's not even talk about quiet luxury and how much plastic is involved in that. But it also creates a lot of waste. So you're seeing a lot of brands that are taking back. H&M has a great take back program where you can drop off your clothing, your clothing that you're done with. Instead of sending it to the landfill, you can go and send it to recycle it. So that's the way that we're trying to find and get rid of this plastic that's actually hiding in our closets, and things that we can do to lessen the harm that it causes. So Aimee, what can we do? Let's like pick apart the fashion industry and say, what can we do to change this narrative?
All right. Well, those are a great question, and that's what we're here to do is trying to help you guys help us all with this problem. Let's start with textiles. So polyester trousers are obviously made of plastic, but sometimes labels are less straightforward. So when you check a garment's fabric composition, it's not uncommon to be confronted by a list of scientific words. Okay, you guys are going to have to bear with me. But for example, here are some of the types of plastic that might be in your product. So you can look on the labels for these words, and that will be a big red flag for you that what you're purchasing has plastic. This one actually has acronym PET, PET, but the chemical is polyethylene terephthalate. And you guys have heard us talk about phthalates before. Phthalates are plastic, or plasticizers. So you definitely want to avoid PETs in your clothing. Also, polyamide, which I'm actually thinking about now, especially when I look at jackets, when I'm looking at what kind of fill it is and stuff. These words, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I see these on labels, especially with coats. Polyurethane, that's a common one. Polyvinyl chloride or PVC. I mean, PVC pipes is what we kind of think of with PVC, but it's in your clothing as well. And polypropylene. These are all different types of plastic. So one thing you can do is check the labels on your clothing for these plastics and avoid them if you can.
PVC, polyvinyl chloride, shower curtains. That's a really big one. You want to find PVC free shower curtains just while we're talking about things as you're getting ready and getting dressed in the morning.
Yeah.
That's a really big one. And polypropylene, that's used in skincare. That's a common ingredient that you could find in skincare as well. So again, all types of plastic. Some of the more common ingredients on your ingredients, I guess it is, on your fashion labels are things that you
I
do
like
know
that.
that aren't as difficult to say, right? So nylon, acrylic is going to be another one. Elastane, is, you can imagine, is used to make elastic. So elastane, those are all plastics. So to make things even more confusing, just like the skincare industry and beauty industry, sometimes the brands will use the brand names. So lycra or spandex, those are types of elastane. They are, something that we all have grown up and that we currently use. Econol or Reprieve, those are other brands, or other branded names of plastics. And that's actually made from plastic waste, and they're nylon and polyester, respectively. So Econol and Reprieve are nylon and polyester. So recycled synthetics, as I mentioned, they're becoming increasingly more common. So while making fabrics from plastic waste reduces the fashion industry's reliance on crude oil, it's also, which, again, is another topic we should dive into in another in
Yeah.
another podcast episode. It doesn't come without its issues. And so that's something, it's circularity, and it's something that we're continuing to evolve and learn more and more about. So what are things that we should do to check, Aimee?
Well, one thing I wanted to say too about acrylic. So I have my skin does not like wool, and so I don't buy wool sweaters. So I often look for sweaters that don't have wool. And you know what most of my sweaters have is acrylic. And until we were doing this research, I didn't realize acrylic was a plastic. I mean, maybe I should. I like clothing ingredients too. I love how you said that. So that was really eye opening for me. So I think a lot of the sweaters in my closet are not well. I already have them, so I'll have to dispose of them responsibly. But acrylic's going to be one of those ones that I look for. So point being, always check the garment care label. That is where the ingredients are the ingredients. That is where the products are listed. See, now I'm calling it ingredients. The different
I know ingredients.
fabrics.
I don't know.
I
It
know,
makes
right?
sense.
We're gonna call it that. What your clothing is made of, you're gonna find that information on the garment care label. So be sure to check those before you make a purchase. And you can also turn to the brands that prioritize natural materials. And there's a lot more out there. And a lot of times it will also be on the label or the tag, eco-tech or eco-friendly. Like there's a lot of or eco, as some people say. So there are definitely ways to check. So look at the tags, look at the garment labels, and that's a great first place to start.
Well, you just mentioned eco-friendly, right? That eco-friendly, this is my jam for summer of 2024. I am in my linen shirt era. That favorite linen shirt that I have that I love, I might be thinking that, yeah, it is eco-friendly. I feel good wearing linen and it helps keep me cool. But guess what? That thread, the sewing thread that's used to stitch it together, is probably synthetic. Even though it's not mentioned on that care label, you're not seeing acrylic or nylon or poly or anything like that. It's typically plastic threads made of one long continuous filament that are used to stitch clothing together because it's tougher and it's less likely to break than cotton thread.
Interesting. We're in our linen phase too in our home, and I've done more ironing, I think, in the last month than I. The boys are super into their linen shirts. I love linen dresses, but it's a good sign, that it's wrinkling because it doesn't have plasticizers in it that are keeping it, straight and flat. But those threads, okay, you can't, again, 80-20, we can't win them
Yep.
all, but look for, more eco-friendly fabrics for sure. And this one's tough to dodge because brands hardly ever spill the beans about what their threads are made of. But if a brand like Stripe or Stare or the Very Good Bra is shouting from the rooftops about their collection being compostable, then they've probably done their homework. So looking for companies like that are talking about their commitment to sustainability and ethical products as well. Just remember, compostable, though, isn't the same thing as biodegradable. I learned this as well doing this podcast. I've learned so much. I thought I knew a lot going into this, and man, I just keep learning more. Compostable isn't the same thing as biodegradable, where they are still waiting on that industry-wide third-party certification for compostability. I just cannot talk today, can I?
I love it
So
though. I
I
love
know,
it.
right? And these aren't even hard words. I nailed the hard words and then give me compostability, which I say all the time. And it's like I'm in a spelling bee or something. So anyway, be careful between biodegradable and compostable. I used to assume they were the same thing as well.
Yeah, we can't assume. And, I was just mentioning plastic threads. Okay, so now let's just keep going. Let's talk about buttons and zippers. So let's go, way back in the days of yore, once upon a time. Once upon a time, buttons were made from shells or wood
Oh,
or, yeah, I know, or even metal, ceramics, glass. I think like I have my grandmother's old button collection. Isn't that a weird thing to collect? But I definitely have it. And I do notice that the old fashioned buttons they were all made of metal. They were made of wood, but now they're just plastic. And even better when you buy that nice acrylic fancy sweater and it comes with the extra buttons. The extra plastic buttons are in the plastic Ziploc bag that it comes
oh
in,
my gosh, I didn't even think about that.
tacked with the plastic little doohickey that attaches into your plastic sweater. I mean, it's just this whole, when you start thinking about it, you can't avoid it. So yeah, the same thing goes for like a hook and an eye. The way that you close a bra or the top of, like a zipper or a fly or something like that. And you can find some metal teeth on zippers, but the fabric that they're set into, guess what? It's made of synthetic plastic. So it just goes round and around and around.
I think we have a whole new industry we need to tackle, Andy. But I love that you have your grandma's button collection. For those of you out there who have button collections, you could, if you have to have the shirt that you love so much, but it has plastic buttons, you could replace them all. How cute would that be with
That'd be
these
adorable.
vintage glass buttons? That'd be super cute. I want shell buttons on all my clothing. Okay, so hunt for natural buttons, you guys, made from Carozo nut or wood, also metal hook and eyes, like Andee mentioned. That'll keep plastic out of your products. High quality zippers are usually metal, but it's like finding a unicorn to find a zipper that's not set in plastic fabric, like Andee just said. So try to stay away from clans. Try to stay away from clothes with zippers if you can. I know we love zippers, but it's just another way to avoid plastic if that's your goal. Brands can get creative with fasteners to avoid plastics. We mentioned a few brands up a little bit earlier. We'll put it in the show notes as well. There are brands doing it. It's just like anything. It takes a little bit more time. It might cost a little bit more money, but in the long run, it's absolutely worth it. So look for those brands or think out of the box, like zero carbon designer Angel Chang, who uses an old school technique to create buttons from cotton knots. How cool is that?
Oh, that is, and then again, it's probably really adorable and cute and, quiet luxury looking at the same time. So
100%. And people will that would be something people would notice, like, oh my God, look how cute this is. I'm a shopaholic. So I look for like fun little details like that.
Well, so now that we have you thinking about the hidden plastics in your clothes, right? It's not just in the fabric, but it's also in the stuff that gives your clothes its shape. So I feel like we were talking a lot about bras, which again, like, let's just go there, right? Padding in bras, shoulder pads did make a brief comeback in 23 and 24, things like that. But men, it's the stiff bits in your collars, in your button down shirts and in your collars, in your cuffs of your sleeves and in your waistbands, the stuffing that's usually done with something it's a technique called fusing. And so that's basically a piece of polyester that is glued on with heat. So it's like you think about that and how many shirts you wear if you're, a work from homer or going to the office or whatever, that collared shirt probably has that polyester tacking, that glue inside of it. And let's not forget, again, our favorite cozy puffer jackets and vests. As a Minnesotan, that is my winter wardrobe. If I'm not wearing linen in the summer and the winter, it's that cozy puffer jacket and vest. And they used to be filled with duck or goose feathers, but now it's just mostly a synthetic polyester fill. I know a brand that we always choose to shop with and supports Patagonia. They've really moved away from those synthetics.
So go for clothes with simple construction to avoid plastics. I do want to mention too, this California girl is going to have to start buying more puffers because my son's going to college in Colorado and it is going to be chilly. But if you're shopping for bras, try to find ones without padding or ones that use cotton or cellulose-based wadding. And as for those puffer jackets, there's actually some really cool stuff happening, and I was really excited to read about this. There's some plant-based alternatives as filler that are being worked with now, including flowers. I mean, how fun would that be to have? This is what's going to get me because, again, I love something cool and different. So did you know my jacket's filled with flowers, bamboo, and wood? Thinking about puffers too, there's the Old Navy puffer, right? That's like $59. And then I'm learning all these really expensive brands that are goose and goose feather filled, which now I get it. I understand why those jackets are so much more expensive. And it's going to be a little bit easier for me when I have to bite the bullet and buy one of those more expensive ones because I know it's, better for the environment and more sustainable and better for the person wearing it, which will be my son in this case. For now, most puffer jackets and things like that still need some kind of bioplastic, but it's good to know that there are alternatives being looked at and we are moving forward in that space.
Well, and then we'll just go one step forward. Those geese and those ducks, make sure that you're shopping with the B Corp whenever you can, who are putting people and planet on equal focus as their profit. So, yeah, definitely. And so going back to those tags, that's my Minnesota accent. It made its comeback. Let's not forget about the tags and the care labels. Circularity is also something that we had just mentioned. Circularity means looking at the whole life cycle of, again, we talk about that in your personal care products, but also it's especially important in the fashion industry. So there's actually, I love following Courtney Holmes. She's an expert circularity consultant. She's also a designer. She faced a really significant challenge while attempting to completely eradicate synthetic materials from her clothing line. The biggest thing that she had difficulty with was the label, the actual physical label itself. So natural material labels natural material labels were scarce. They're difficult to print on. They don't hold that ink as well as a synthetic plastic, but she didn't let that stop her. She initially resorted to recycled PET. We talked about PET, the acronym, a recycled PET option for her labels. Also, ultimately, she just went right to the supplier and she persuaded them to adopt a bio-based alternative. So again, we're talking about someone who didn't just accept the status quo. She pushed the envelope. She went directly to the source, and they granted and created her this bio-based alternative label for her clothing line.
And that's how we make change happen. Her journey is a testament to the power of demanding more from suppliers. And they can do that, and they should, and more hopefully will. Hold your favorite brands accountable by inquiring about the materials used in their tags and their care labels. This could spark meaningful change like it did for Courtney and her business. And if anyone needs guidance, there is an open source guide by a New Zealand brand called Kowtow, and it's a valuable resource that offers insights from this company's transition to being a plastic-free brand. So we'll link that information in the show notes as well. But there are examples out there of companies doing this, which means it can be done. So there's no more being like, oh, no, you can't. You have to have plastic. That is actually not true. So let's keep that moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we think about plastic, right? It makes things easy to slip on, but it's not so easy to get rid of. Like the inside, the lining of your clothes. We're going to go back to those puffer jackets, right? And you've got kids who are putting on their mittens and their hats and all that, and they're sliding their arms into it. There's a glide that has to be created that's often plastic. Polyester, nylon, they make things smooth enough to provide that benefit, but it's the unintention, it's the plastic consumption and exposure that are doing the garments a great disservice. So ultimately, until like a silk or like a viscose rayon that actually would allow the skin to breathe, we're stuck with these synthetic materials that are trapping heat and kind of they also hold on to odors, which is not a good thing. I mean, what are some other, I guess, textile ingredients, or I keep saying ingredients, textile fabrics that would be a good swap for some of these plastic and polys?
Well, I'm just going to keep using ingredients too because it makes sense in our brains, right? Look for garments lined with silk, cotton, or human-made cellulose materials such as viscose rayon, cupro, modal. I actually love modal. I remember when that kind of came like in the 90s, there was a lot of modal and I just loved it. Or lyocell. So there are definitely fabrics you can look for.
Well, and again, we think about the material used to make pockets, right? And we're really diving into that, diving in, no pun intended, to pockets, digging deep into pockets, really. They need to be durable, right? So it doesn't split under the weight of your phone, your chapstick, your lipstick, whatever you're putting into your pocket. It needs to be strong. It needs to be durable. And that, again, is another area of your clothing that's oftentimes just going to be polyester or nylon.
So look for garments with pocket bags made from cotton, hemp, or a human-made cellulose material like viscose rayon. We mentioned those before. Cupro, modal, or lyocell. Now let's talk about vegan leather and faux fur. The vegan leather you're seeing everywhere, right? And I thought, great, vegan leather, what a great option. It's usually a mix of polyester, polyurethane, and sometimes a bit of plant stuff. So the first two ingredients I mentioned are plastic. So the bummer is most plant-based leathers out there still depend on some synthetic bits for durability or bendiness. Same goes for most faux fur. It's typically just a mix of acrylic polymers, polyester, or nylon. So in other words, plastic.
Well, and again, this might be an unpopular opinion, so just wait for it. Don't at me yet. But on the bright side, real leather is super durable and fixable. And if you look after it right, it will last you years, maybe even decades. So there's lots and lots of vintage leather stuff out there that's better for the planet than plastic leathers. And truly, at the end of the day, if leather is a no-go for you for ethical reasons, your best bet is for plastic-free alternatives. And one of those is something called Mirum, M-I-R-U-M, Mirum. That's 100% plant-based and plastic-free. Tomtex is another one. Tomtex, now it's not strictly vegan because it's made from mushroom and the waste and like wasted seafood shells. I know that sounds so crazy, but it's true. Think about that. If you go out and eat seafood, or if you're cooking at home, like those shells just get tossed and they actually don't decompose. So you can take those and turn it into vegan leather. Who knew? Again, the research that we put into this episode always teaches us something at the same time. And there are lots of companies that are working on plant-based faux furs, but most of them still use a bit of that plastic, like we talked about. They're pretty likely to shed. I'm even thinking of like the faux fur rugs that you might see in stores as like accent pillows, right? They shed, and that's again microplastics going into the airways or again onto your body. So it's just a good idea to steer clear of those if you can.
Well, and I'm picturing 2 faux fur pillows I have at my house right now, and they're going out the door when I get home, much to the happiness, I'm sure, of my boys, because they think we have way too many pillows in our house. So, but I had no idea. So, I knew about that. I just had no idea that the faux fur pillows were shedding microplastics. Okay, let's do a quick plastic recap, you guys. So 99% of all plastic is produced from fossil fuels. 2, plastic inflicts major injustices on the BIPOC, rural, and low-income families. 3, plastic contaminates our earth with waste and toxins. 4, every 30 seconds, this one really blew me away, 1 person dies of disease from plastic and waste. And 5, plastic items and waste injure and kill millions of wild animals every year. We could do a whole episode on each one of those points, but just to hit home how detrimental plastic is to so many different, not just our bodies, but Mother Earth and all of the wonderful animals we have, et cetera. So it really is something we want to try and cut back on and avoid as much as possible.
We really hope that this episode got you thinking about the clothes that you're wearing, not just in plastic-free July, but always. Impact that they have on you, our environment, as Aimee said, Mother Earth and all of her creatures. It might leave you wondering and feeling like you need or want to do more. And there's tons of groups out there dedicated to kicking plastic to the curb. So one of those that we encourage you to check out is the Plastic Pollution Coalition.
Yes, take the pledge to say no to plastic and support initiatives that aim to reduce plastic use in fashion and other industries as well. You can check out the link in our show notes.
Oh, I love it. Okay. So thank you for joining us today, everyone. We appreciate it. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your family and friends. Sharing and spreading the word about the importance of sustainable fashion and living is part of how Aimee and I can help you transition into a sustainable and low tox living life.
And don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our podcast for more episodes on sustainable living, wellness, and more. Until next time, this is Aimee and Andee reminding you to keep your heart close to the coast and your impact gentle on the earth.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.